Hi, my name is Rinda Hall, and I'm with Family Tree Counseling Associates. The title of my video is Lost in the Fog of Narcissistic Abuse. Coming out of a 15-year relationship, I was trying to find out what had happened, how it had happened, and why I had stayed in that relationship for so long. So I began doing some research, and I came across the topic of narcissistic relationships and a blog by Savannah Gray. And Gray states, being caught in the haze of narcissistic relationship is being in a state of denial. It's relative obliviousness to subtle manipulations by seasoned predators. Now, I don't want to call these people predators because I willingly invited them into my life through my own childhood wounds. It's knowing that you're unhappy and your gut tells you that something's wrong, but you lack the willingness to act or do anything about it. It's like watching your life unfold without being completely present. There's a big difference in knowing that the relationship is toxic and doing something about it. It's what happens when your mind and your heart and your mind and your fears are in two different places. You know what you have to do, but you're afraid to do it. Gray goes on to say, even though there's no locks or chains, you've become a prisoner of narcissistic abuse and you just didn't know it. But don't beat yourself up over this. There's an estimated 15% of the population that are narcissists. So you have a 1 in 6 chance of meeting one. A client sent me a video link to a lady named Melanie Tanya Evans, and I began watching these videos and reading her blogs, and it all began to make sense. So this is how narcissistic abuse occurs and how you can get out of the fog. You're raised to be codependent because you give up your wants and your feelings to please your parent, usually a narcissistic parent. You meet the love of your life, and it's all too good to be true, but the narcissist finds they figure out your hopes, your dreams, and the things that you missed out on childhood. And Melanie Tanya Evans calls these filling in the gaps. They display irresistible charm. They go out of the way to stand out. And in my past relationship, how this happened was I had divorced my daughter's alcoholic father, and I had gotten into a new relationship. And when my 5-year-old daughter looked at him when he had a beer and said, "You're just like my father," he immediately poured that beer out and ran up upstairs and talked to her. And this captured my heart because my daughter is very close to me, and she was my world. You get hooked on them paying attention to you, and then they use it against you later on. And Melanie calls this love bombing. When you leave, they tell you what you want to hear. They show your affection to get you back. And I had left the relationship in 2004, and one of the things that he had said to me is that I'll go to counseling and I'll get the help that I need, and he had no intent of doing the work. The second thing is control and isolation. They slowly begin to isolate you away from your friends and family, and because they're afraid that they're going to see them for who they are and enlighten you about it. They begin to create problems, like telling you that your friends are only wanting you to be around for your money or things of that nature. They make it uncomfortable so that you don't spend time with them. Or you are embarrassed or ashamed that they might be actually right, so you shut them out of your life. The third thing is demeaning. They tell you that you don't do enough, so you do more. And then that's not good enough. The fourth thing is attacks on your self-esteem. They identify your gaps as weak points, or they create new ones. They talk about your body image, your intelligence, like telling you things like, who told you to say that? Who told you about that? Don't worry. They don't want you to feel good about yourself for 2 reasons. 1, you'll leave. Or 2, that they're projecting because they're unhappy, so why should you be? The fifth thing is fighting dirty. One of the things that happens is gaslighting, and this is meant to keep you off balance by telling you things and then coming back when you ask about it and say, oh, I never said that. 2 is imagined allies. And let me give you an example of this. My mom had come to visit us for the holidays one year, and he came to me after I'd gone to bed, and he had been up talking to my mom, and he woke me up, and he says, you won't believe the things that your mother said about you. And so because I felt that I was in love with him, I took his side, and I called my aunt the next day and said, look, she can't stay here. And before Thanksgiving, I put her on a plane and shipped her to one of my other sisters. Projection. This makes you feel they make you feel like it's your own fault. That they did this because of you. Another thing is refusal to stay on topic. One of his favorite things to do was to start on an issue and then talk about another issue and another issue and another issue until 4 hours had passed, and I was so confused that I didn't even know what we were talking about to begin with. And then another tactic is manipulation. And one of these things that he would do would be, I would get onto a topic and say I didn't like something, and he would make his hand tremble. And immediately I felt guilty, and that was part of projection. I felt guilty that he was upset, and so I catered to him, and I gave in. The last thing about fighting dirty is they attack you on regards to your distress. Like telling you because you raise your voice or you disagree that you're being reactive. And a good way, an example of this is one time I was being wrapped around and wrapped around and wrapped around in a conversation, and I got so frustrated I walked into another room, I slammed the door and I hit it, and I was like, I hate you. And so what he did was he texted our marriage counselor and said that he was in fear for his life because I was angry. So you feel like you give up your power until you become powerless. But you also feel like you'll be nothing without them. And then the discard and the abandonment takes place. So why do we stay? We stay because of cognitive dissonance, which is holding two conflicting beliefs. We know that the relationship is toxic and you're miserable, but on the other hand, you feel like you're in love. And fear keeps us stuck. Fear tells us that we can't financially make it, that we're fear of the unknown. And another thing that keeps us is our own codependency. So healing our childhood wounds is going to help us get out of the fog and into the light. So you were put on this earth to be happy. That's your purpose. You were not meant to live for somebody else. You were not meant to live on an emotional roller coaster. You were not meant to walk on eggshells. You were not meant to be unhappy. And in time, you'll come to see that all of this has been an incredible learning experience. Trust your instincts and start walking through the fog until you see the light. There you will find freedom, joy, and self-sufficiency. I'm Rinda Hall, and thanks for watching.